Yes. Welcome once again, everybody. The Marijuana Times Show for November 29th, 2017. I'm your host, Joe Klare. Welcome. You can find myself and many other great writers over at marijuanatimes.org, covering all you need to know about the cannabis community and industry and more. marijuanatimes.org. You can also find these videos there as well. You share, comment. They're also up on our Facebook page and our YouTube page. You go subscribe at those places. The Marijuana Times Show is also now an audio podcast on Apple Podcasts. Just go search The Marijuana Times on Apple Podcasts or iTunes or whatever, and you shall find the show. Talk about a lot of great stuff today, including new poll out of New York. This shows New Yorkers prefer legalizing marijuana over raising taxes, and a host of other things. I mean, why wouldn't you? Also, stories about potential or an attempted gun grab for medical marijuana patients, in Hawaii, and new musings from Jeff Sessions about marijuana, legality, all of that. We'll talk about all of that coming up, of course. But first, well, Marijuana Times Show is brought to you by naturesidecannabis.com. Organic, all-natural pesticides. If you're a cultivator in places like California or Colorado or Oregon or Washington and beyond, you need good pesticides. You need good products. Here's the thing. One, you don't want your customers getting harmful chemicals in their marijuana. Two, you don't want to run afoul of regulations in whatever state that you're in. They're going to be checking on you. You're going to have to meet certain standards when it comes to pesticides in your grow, and you're going to need all natural organic pesticides like those provided by naturesidecannabis.com. They can also help you become regulatory compliant. Go talk to them. Check them out. naturesidecannabis.com, a proud sponsor of the Marijuana Times Show. First story comes from marijuanatimes.org. New Yorkers prefer legalizing marijuana to raising taxes. This is by Julia Granowitz over at marijuanatimes.org. Apparently, a poll was commissioned by the Marijuana Policy Project Foundation and the Drug Policy Alliance. It was conducted by Emerson College in New York. The poll asked New York residents if they would support or oppose different approaches to addressing budget issues. Apparently, the state is facing some $4 billion shortfall. This is quite large, even for a large state. They gave them different options. They gave the residents different options in the poll, including increasing the income tax, increasing the sales tax, increasing highway and bridge tolls, cutting education and public service funding, or legalizing marijuana. Now, it may seem like a no-brainer to us, and well, it is because of reasons I'll give you in a second. But here's how things turned out. 19% said increase the income tax. 15% said increase the sales tax. 27% would support increasing highway and bridge tolls. And only 16% said they would support cutting funding from education and public services. So of the five options, the clear winner was legalizing marijuana. Got 60% of the vote. Not only was it 60% of the vote, 71% of independents approved, 63% of Democrats, and 53% of Republicans said yes to cover the budget shortfall. Let's legalize and tax marijuana. Big numbers, obviously, and for obvious reasons. The other ones include they all include taking something from the people that they're asking the question to. Taking more money, either through the income tax or the sales tax or the highway and bridge tolls. People feel if you cut education and public service funding that they pay taxes into, that's taking something from them. Legalizing marijuana, for one, is not taking anything from anybody. Well, if you want to be technical, it's taking market share away from illegal marijuana dealers, but it's not taking it's not taking something from people who are asked the question in this poll. It's the only one of the options that says, hey, all the other stuff, keep that, and we're going to legalize marijuana on top of it. Now, obviously, a lot of people already agree that marijuana should be legalized, even when not compared to things that would obviously be less favorable. I mean, to be fair, those other options never stood a chance. Those things don't when put up against legalizing marijuana, but things like raising taxes and tolls and cutting education, those things aren't going to fare well in a fight with legalizing marijuana. But it's on its own, people agree, majorities in most states now, agree with legalizing marijuana because it's legalizing something, a substance that people use, people who are not infringing on the rights of anyone else. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's a market that already exists. Why shouldn't it be taxed? I could go on all day about the reasons that people would favor legalizing marijuana. And as I said, even when not compared to these other very unfavorable options. And if it had just been those options and marijuana wouldn't have been included, all those numbers would be the same. None of them would have approached anywhere near 50%. But it does serve to show you how popular legalized marijuana is. There's few things that are popular, and most politicians are still like, no. They're not infringing on the rights of anyone else, and we're wasting money, and it's not working, and people can get marijuana anyway, and the market exists, massive billions and billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars industry that's in the black market now. But no, I'm still against it. It's much safer than tobacco and alcohol. Oh, no, I'm still against it. So congratulations on marijuana for winning that poll in New York. Hopefully the politicians in New York and officials in New York will listen, but will they? It's unlikely. Most of these things, the hand needs to be forced. Your legislature, they're your legislator. They're the people that you supposedly sent there to represent you. In theory, they work for you. So tell them, hey, this other stuff sucks. Legalize marijuana. That's how to fix the budget. Even if it doesn't fix the budget, it'll help. Stop wasting money. Get taxes. Bring it out of the black market. Anyway, moving to the next story. This is from HighTimes.com and our old pal Radical Russ Belville from the Marijuana Agenda Show. He broke a story the other day involving Hawaii police have sent letters to gun owners in Hawaii who are also medical marijuana patients to basically telling them that they have to hand over their guns. It's happening because, well, in Hawaii, first of all, they not only have a registry of medical marijuana patients, they also have a registry of all gun owners, so they're simply able to match up the two, get the names and the addresses, and then send those people letters and say that you can't have a gun. This is what Russ wrote at High Times. He said, through Facebook, I was forwarded an official letter that a registered Hawaii patient received from the Honolulu Police Department. It read, quote, this letter is to inform you that under provisions of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, Section 134-7A, you are disqualified from firearms ownership, possession, or controlling firearms. Your medical marijuana use disqualifies you from ownership of firearms and ammunition. Now, I must have missed that part of the Constitution. I went back and reread the Second Amendment, and it doesn't say that. Now, there's a couple things about this. Well, let me first finish reading this, and then we'll get to that. HRS 134-7.3, seizure of firearms upon disqualification. If you currently own or have any firearms, you have 30 days upon receipt of this letter to voluntarily surrender your firearms, permit, and ammunition to Honolulu Police Department, or otherwise transfer ownership. A medical doctor's clearance letter is required for any future firearms applications or return of firearms from HPD evidence. Russ says it's important to note that it's Section 134-7A that is cited in the disqualifying statute. It's because that is the section that prohibits gun ownership for people under treatment or counseling for addiction to, abuse of, or dependence upon any dangerous, harmful, or detrimental drug. Hawaii isn't taking patients' gun rights away because Hawaii believes medical marijuana patients are abusing marijuana. They're doing it because the federal government believes medical marijuana patients are abusing marijuana. Section 134-7A says no person who is a fugitive from justice or is a person prohibited from possessing firearms or ammunition under federal law shall own, possess, or control any firearm or ammunition thereof. So the statute in Hawaii law that says you can't If you're prohibited from doing something by federal law, you can't do it. And you're prohibited by federal law from owning firearms if you're a medical marijuana user. Those things collide, and you get sent a letter that says, hey, you can't have a gun. Now, Russ makes a good point in this article about the NRA being silent on this issue, which they are, quite silent. But beyond that, there's a couple things that come to mind. First of all, this notion that I'm not a fan of, and we talked about this with the Detroit City Council story the other day, that rights are something that need to be balanced against other considerations. That's not what rights are. They don't need to be balanced against anything. They need to be protected from everything else. Because otherwise, what's the point of having the Constitution? If you can just say, well, you're allowed, I mean, this right applies to you, of course, but not in these cases. And then have a list of the cases. Because anything can be added to that list. Any reason can be used to say, hey, you're not covered by this right in the Constitution. And if that's the case, and you extend the logic out, well, then the Constitution is worthless, because any reason can be added, and any reason can be used to take away a right. The second part of this is the lack of due process. Many of us agree that, well, you do lose your rights if you break the law. If you're violent with someone, if you commit a felony against someone, if you shoot someone, if you rob someone, if you rape, assault, you do any of these things, then no, you aren't covered by those rights. It's the notion behind, well, if you committed a felony, you can't vote, can't own a firearm, things like that. But these people are legal. They're not legal in federal law. To be fair, what they're doing is not legal under federal law, but there's no due process. And I guess someone would come back and say, well, they have a card for medical marijuana, which means they probably use medical marijuana, which is illegal under federal law. Therefore, there's a due process. Again, that logic played out can mean anything. Does that mean someone who uses medical marijuana doesn't have a First Amendment right? It's obviously been used for taking away people like their Fourth Amendment right and Fifth Amendment rights, 10th Amendment rights. The list goes on. But there's no due process whatsoever. There's just, hey, you do A, so this right is taken away from you. And again, like as Russ says, the NRA is silent about gun rights being taken away without due process, which I think stems a lot, obviously, from the fact that the NRA and the people who belong to the NRA are mostly, and again, you look at polls like the one I talked about in the last story, this is changing, but they're not fans of things like marijuana legalization. That's changing. And if an organization like the NRA actually came out and just said something about a case like this, it would get national news. And getting national news maybe would put pressure on authorities in Hawaii, which, by the way, how's this going to work out? What if you don't turn in your gun? What happens then? They're going to come get it? Okay, well, they're going to come get it. I know if they suspect you of having a marijuana plant, they'll come in with a SWAT team with the bulletproof vests and the Kevlar helmets and the automatic weapons or whatever they have, and the grenade launchers and the whole 9 yards. What if they think you have a plant and a gun? Are they going to kick in your door? Maybe they'll just blow up your house from the outside and not have to worry about it. Will they send in bomb-sniffing robots, or the little robots they send in to, diffuse bombs so they don't have to send people in? Will they swing through will they rappel out of helicopters through your skylight into your house? Will they dig through your basement, up through your floor? How is this going to work? If people don't turn in their gun, what happens then? I hope we don't find out. That's the point. Just, God. You can drink a fifth of Jack Daniels and have a gun. You can drink a fifth of Jack Daniels and go buy a fucking gun. Pardon my French. You know what? I don't get angry about a lot. But something like this, where it's like, it's not enough to say, you can't have medical marijuana. You're not allowed to do that. You're a criminal. But now you're a criminal in other ways as well. Not only you're a criminal in this way, you're a criminal in other aspects of life, just by virtue of the fact that you use marijuana, which you shouldn't be a criminal for in the first place. So to extend it to other areas and other constitutional rights and say you don't get that right because you're a marijuana user. It's bull. What have we done about it? I don't know. If I was going to say, if you live in Hawaii, maybe tell your representatives or whatever. But I mean, is that going to help? These are this is the same state government that's going to come take your guns. You're gonna call them up and say, look, I don't think you should take my gun. And they're going to say, oh, what's your name? Let me write that down. We're going to pay special attention to you when we come kick in your door. We'll make sure we have 80 agents to come kick in your door to take your gun. You medical marijuana patient, you. We'll show you. It's not going to end well. Just back off. Move on. Worry about something important. If someone has arthritis and uses a cannabis topical and they have a gun, is that what the cops need to be focused on? Did you solve all those murders? Did you solve all the rapes and the assaults and the robberies and the armed robberies and the break-ins and all that? You got all that cleared away? That's good. That's good. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that Hawaii has solved all the other crimes. Now they're moving on to stuff that wasn't important and illegal. Constitutionally illegal. I guess they have. Congratulations, Hawaii, on solving all of your murders and your rapes and your assaults. And everybody who needs to be in jail being in jail. That's good news. Unbelievable. Our last story comes from usnews.com. It's our old pal, Jeff Sessions. Speaking of ridiculousness, on Wednesday, he gave his strongest signal yet that the Justice Department's more hands-off approach to marijuana enforcement may soon be changing. Sessions said the department is looking, quote, very hard right now, end quote, at a directive carried over from the Obama administration that effectively encourages federal prosecutors to generally defer to state laws that legalize marijuana use. We had meetings yesterday and talked about it at some length, the Attorney General said. Speaking at a press conference on new measures to combat opioid abuse, it's my view that the use of marijuana is detrimental, and we should not give encouragement in any way to it, and it represents a federal violation, which is in the law, and is subject to being enforced, and our priorities will have to be focused on all the things and challenges we face. He added, we'll be working our way through to a rational policy. I'm sure. But I don't want to suggest in any way that this department believes that marijuana is harmless and that people should not avoid it. And it goes into the history of what Jeff Sessions thinks about marijuana, which we've gone into at length here on the show. And again, here he's at a press conference. They're talking about the opioid crisis. Now, on the surface, just the fact that he's talking about marijuana makes no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. Opioids and marijuana are about as far apart as can be. They're two totally and completely different substances. And then you add the fact that there are many studies that show people getting off opioids thanks to marijuana. There are statistics show that states with medical marijuana programs have less opioid-related deaths. They have less opioid-related prescription costs. And that, as I said, people are using marijuana to get off opioids. Now, if you're going to mention marijuana at an opioid press conference, that's what you should be mentioning. So, oh, by the way, some studies are showing, some evidence is showing that the marijuana is helpful in this area. But no, instead he uses it as an opportunity to say, hey, by the way, I hate marijuana. It should be illegal, and we're going to look at what we need to do about that. Just, again, worry about what you should be worried about. Again, I'm amazed that all of this federal crime that happens has been solved. And now Jeff Sessions can focus on marijuana. I'm glad the opioid crisis has been solved so Jeff Sessions can worry about marijuana. I'm glad we've cleared all this other stuff away off of our plates, so to speak, so we can focus on the problem of marijuana. God, do your job. Do your job. State of Hawaii, do your job. Jeff Sessions, do your job. Your job's not to worry about pot smokers. They're not the problem. You worry about opioids. How about you do something about that? They make those and they prescribe them legally to people. Try focusing on that. But no, let's put that on the back burner. Let's put all the other stuff on the back burner. Let's talk about marijuana. He brings up marijuana all the time, especially when talking about opioids. I guess he doesn't like the idea that the marijuana use is shown to reduce opioid use. Because he obviously doesn't agree with that. That's not a thing in his world. I don't know. Do your job. Move on. Focus on things that are important. These are things that everybody can work on. It's good life advice. It's not good advice for these specific instances. It's good life advice. Do your job. Focus on what's important. Get that done. Hey, if every federal crime is solved, you want to talk about what we should do about marijuana? Well, let's have that discussion. We'll sit down and we'll talk about it. But solve everything else first. All the Hawaii crime, all the federal crime, go work on that. This has been another episode of the Marijuana Times Show. One of the more animated ones. I feel like I'm getting that way in my old age. More animated, more angry. I shake my fist at the camera. I am Joe Klare. For November 29th, 2017, the Marijuana Times Show. From everybody at the Marijuana Times, thank you for checking us out and spreading the word about this show. Thank you to NatureSideCannabis.com for being a sponsor. All natural organic pesticides. NatureSideCannabis.com. If you want to sponsor the show, info@marijuanatimes.org. Send us an email. Let us know that you want to be a sponsor of the Marijuana Times Show. Go share and like and comment on the videos, of course. Keep spreading the word, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing. I'll do my job. I take pride in my job. I'll focus on my job. Like if I did a show and I just start talking about sports. See, I'm going to get to marijuana in a minute, but first I'm going to talk about sports for 20 minutes. A lot of you be like, what? What's this? The Sports Times Show? Until next time, everybody, I am Joe Klare, the Marijuana Times Show. Go check us out at marijuanatimes.org. See you next time.